All right, hello, and good morning. Welcome to the Going Executive Director Show. My name is Brandy, and Jeff will be joining us here in just a minute. So our purpose is to bring you the vision, skills, techniques, inspiration, motivation, and daily activities needed for you to build a solid, profitable business. Now remember, this is our team's philosophy. So if you guys are waiting for our generic show, which starts at noon, that's when that's going on. But here we're going to be talking about more specifics, and we will be mentioning company names. So with that, we are going to be going over the 10 core. So with that, the first core is getting started right. And when I first got started in this industry, which was a different company, I was not getting started right at all. So I don't know about you when you got into your first company, but I was told to chase people down in Walmart, harass your friends and family, and don't tell anybody what exactly you're doing. Just get them on the phone with your upline or get them to an event. So that's exactly what I tried to do. And I kind of had that funny feeling like, I'm not sure if that's what's going on, but since these guys are making more money in this than I am, maybe I should shut my mouth and listen. I think I should have listened to my gut at that time, but I didn't. But now I learned. So a fun story for you. I went to my best friend first, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this thing. I just started a business and it's going to be great and I'm going to make so much money. And she's like, okay, great. Well, what is it? And I'm like, well, I can't tell you. But what I could do, I could get you on the phone with my upline and then you can come to an event. And she's like, okay. And this is my best friend, and she's just looking at me like I'm crazy. Now, she'll support me in pretty much anything I do, but a lot of times she'll come out and tell me, she's like, Brandy, that doesn't make any sense. And in this case, she just kind of nodded her head, and she's like, okay, no, I'm not talking to this stranger, and this is weird. Like, what are you trying to sell me, Brandy? So it didn't work. So hold on, I'm looking at my notes here. So all that, what I just said, it really sounds weird to the average person, and it doesn't sound like a legitimate business. You wouldn't go to a real estate agent, and if they replied to you, well, I don't know how to sell you a house, you need to go talk to this other person, or you need to watch video and then come to this open house so that way I can show you how to sell you this house, you wouldn't go with that real estate agent. So I didn't get it at the time of why all this wasn't working, just being excited and running up on people. And I'm not going to lie, I did run up on a couple of people in Walmart too. And I didn't get it at the time. I'm like, why don't people want to see this business? And it's just because I wasn't handling it and presenting it in a professional manner. So with that, I'm actually going to have Jeff come over and take over the 10 core and show you how to get started right. Jeff? He gets the big chair now.
All right, guys, Sherry's here. What's happening? A couple people jumping on. So what we're talking about is the 10 core commitments. Now, the company we work with, Legal Shield, actually has a 10 core. Frank's with us. Moose is with us. What's up, sir? Michael jumped on. So the 10 core, the company actually has a 10 core. So this isn't the company's 10 core. This is the team philosophy, which is similar, but I would say slightly different. And every team is going to have their own philosophy on how to get things done. There were 10 things that I was taught to do to be able to build a successful direct sales company. And it really doesn't matter what company you work with. I've actually used these exact same 10 things, no matter what company that I've worked with. I've been able to do this with product companies. I've been able to do this with service companies. But really it's these 10 things. And just kind of cover them quickly. We're going to go into depth to each one of them. Is, number one, actually getting started right. That Brandy has already gone over. The second one is be here a year from now. The reason be here a year from now is so important, of course, is if you not here, you're not going to learn, all the insider techniques to be able to get this done. And a lot of people, when you first look at it, you're like, it cannot take that long to figure this out. But what I can tell you is there's probably more depth to it. Anytime people are breaking, 6 figures in a month, anytime people are breaking 6 figures in a week, and there's a couple people in the industry that have broken 7 figures in a month. And I don't tell you that to impress you and, and try to get you to make that kind of money, because that's not for everybody. But doesn't it make sense that if people have gotten to those incomes, there's more to it than just kind of being around and talking to a couple people? The third is personal development. And we're going to get into depth on what development we need to talk about. Fourth, market daily. How do you market daily? What is the most effective way to market? 5, present daily. What presentation are you presenting? Like, what information are we transferring to other people? Number 6 is attend an open house. Now, we have an open house here in Indianapolis. We're also going to be putting that online, so that way the people outside Indianapolis can plug in. Also, attend a core training, which we're putting together. Once a week, we will have a core training that goes over more in depth. What it does is it covers these 10 things, and then it focuses on one of the 10 for each of basically the first 5 weeks. Then we recap, and then another 5 weeks, and then we recap. So that way, in a 12-week cycle, you're going to see this obviously 4 times a year. That helps people kind of get the basic training down, because if you don't know the basic training, you can't actually run this yourself. The idea is to teach people to do stuff that they can do without you, that they can do without having a bunch to plug into, a bunch of stuff to run around and do. From 7, you got number 8, which is attend a monthly regional. Right now, the company has monthly regionals all over the place. At a certain point in time, we'll be running a regional. A regional event is basically exactly what it says. It's for the region, and it's a training that is on a Saturday that lasts a certain amount of time, covers certain things. Number 9 is all conventions. Right now we have certain conventions inside of our company, and then last is a massive action plan, so that way you can get things going. So before I jump into necessarily getting started right, which we'll probably go into a little bit more tomorrow, you have to understand why we're putting this together. Anything that's easy to do is also easy not to do. Inside of business, inside of whatever company you decide to jump into, there's just a couple certain things that you want to know. And we covered part of this last week, kind of the philosophy behind it. And what I found is you have programming when you first grow up, and most people are not programmed to be an entrepreneur. Most people are not programmed to be self-employed. Some people are programmed to be a career employee. And what I mean by a career employee is, that's the whole go to school, get good grades. If you get good grades, then you can get a good job and get into a great college, and then you're going to pick something. And career-minded is long-term. Some people just have a job mentality, and that's all the farther it's going to go. And some people are just flat out, it's like unemployed. Living off the system is the way to go. And that philosophy kind of leads into, how people look at the world. Some people look at the world as unlimited. There's an unlimited supply of things. If there isn't something there, that if there is a limited supply, technology just hasn't caught up to make it unlimited. So they have a glass, the glass is half full. Some people look at it as the glass is half empty. No matter what happens, there's less and less for everybody else. Which kind of leads people to this identity of you're either successful or non-successful. Certain people have already made a decision in their head. I am not going to be successful because they grew up in a certain environment. I'm not going to be successful because of who my parents were, because of the neighborhood I grew up in, because of, who I grew up around. Certain people are going to be successful regardless of, it's funny because you can look at somebody with the exact same circumstances and they're going to be successful just basically how they were programmed, what they were taught, and the philosophy that they have behind what they're doing. Then it leads to thinking, long-term thinking. Long-term thinking is the one that'll get you the furthest. Oh, I thought you were like,
nothing.
hey.
I just accidentally.
Short-term thinking is what most people do. Short-term thinking, I'm just trying to get by, I'm just wasting time, I'm doing nothing, I'm killing time, I'm thinking about it, I'm trying. That kind of talk, that kind of philosophy, you can tell somebody who has short-term thinking by the words they use or by the words that follow what they're trying to do. That leads into your attitude, how you feel about what's going on. It's either positive or negative. Positive is basically that I can do it, self-reliant. If there is a way, I'll find it. That's a certain mentality of people, but most people have a negative mentality. I can't do it because I can't do it because of the government. I can't do it because of the president. I can't do it because of my friends. I can't do it because of the area I'm in. I can't do it because of my neighborhood. I can't do it because of my spouse. I can't do it because of my kids. I mean, people can come up with any reason they want not to do it. And you'll find very often that is what people will do. And you just have to sit and listen for it to find out, is this a person who's long-term or short-term? Is this a person who's going to lead? Is it, we always said there's links to leaders and then there's leaders. Most people are the link to the leader. The leader is one who grasps this concept and kind of eventually turns and has the right philosophy behind what's going on. That leads to your actions. So that's step 6 of this. It leads to your actions. Is your actions dream-driven? Are they goal-focused? Are they activity-tracked? Is there mentorship and coaching along the way? Do you have accountability to what you're doing? Meaning, are you really part of what's going on? Are you really part of a team? I see Jerry Hatton came on. Dream driven. Most people's actions are reaction based. They're circumstance driven, they're random, they're unplanned. They really don't have a focus. They're just getting up every day and whatever happens. Habits. This leads into our habits. Our actions lead into our habits. Our habits are things that we've done so many times that they just become routine. There's 2 kinds of habits. There's good habits and bad habits, right? Good habits are planned out, focused, disciplined, constant, and tracked. Bad habits are reactions, circumstances, random, unplanned. And where do you think that leads to? Obviously, that's going to lead to your results. And your results are either going to be good or bad. Your results are successful or they're unsuccessful. And again, it has to do with that predictability, that, is it planned out? Is it tracked? People who do the right things can actually point to and say, I know I'm on the right track because here's what's happening. The graph is going up. People whose results are going down keep focusing on, well, this hasn't worked and this hasn't worked and this hasn't worked. And they keep a list of what hasn't worked. Well, that hasn't worked, rather than the list of what does work. Tom's with us. What's up, sir? That leads into your lifestyle. Your lifestyle, again, dream driven. Or is it going to be random and unplanned? And that leads to your legacy. It's either going to be, and I was told this very early on, it's either going to be a great example to follow, or it's going to be a warning or lesson of what not to do. That leads into, how do you change your programming, your philosophy, and your identity? Because if you can change your programming, your philosophy, and your identity, then you can kind of make all the rest of this work. And there's basically 4 things. It's what you listen to, what you watch, what you read, and who you hang out with. And most of us kind of are put in an environment, and it used to be you couldn't break out of this environment. And what I mean by that is, it's very hard to break out in the environment. If you lived in a cave, this is, years before cars, industrial, electricity. If you lived in a cave, you're kind of stuck with the people who are around you. But the problem is people still live like that. People still live with like the cave mentality. They're like, well, this is all I got. This is the only people around me. So therefore I'm stuck in this environment and I can't get out. Really? With the internet, you can't go make new friends. Well, that's uncomfortable. That's weird. That's different. Agreed, it is. But can you make a completely different group of friends? Yes. Can you listen to something completely different? Most people were taught growing up to sit and turn on the television and watch the news every morning. I will tell you this flat out. If you get up every day and read the newspaper and you get up every day and watch TV, your ability to succeed dropped by about 95%. Your ability to succeed just dropped by 95%. You have a 5% window of making it now, just by watching TV and reading the newspaper every day. Now, it used to be that's what got you connected to what's going on. That's not the case, and it hasn't been the case for a long, long time. But if that's your methodology, if that's your programming that you're using every day and you're wondering why you're not succeeding, those things are now set up to keep you where you're at, not necessarily influence you to go do anything. So right away, that's a clue. If you're looking for a clue on what to do, unplugging your TV is probably, if you want to make it in any business, I don't care if it's direct sales, I don't care if it's this company, another company, if you want to make it, period, real estate, insurance, unplug your TV and cancel your newspaper subscription immediately. The reason being is you can get all of that other places. You can get the information you really need. If you want to know what the weather is, there's a weather app. If you need to know what's going on around the world, there's a world app that can tell you what's going on. But if you're reading specifically what the news wants you to know, You know, and I don't care which side of the spectrum you run on. Well, my news is better. Really? Just unplug it. Unplug the TV, cancel the newspaper subscription, and plug into some different stuff. And you're like, well, what stuff should I plug into? It's not necessarily me and what we're saying. This is just a small segment of something that might get you on track. But what you do need to plug into is you need to plug into some people who have made it, and you need to start learning as fast as you can what they're doing. What are people doing that are succeeding? I would start with Jim Rohn. I would start with Eric Thomas. I would start with, something by Tony Robbins. I would start with people who are in our industry, specifically. I'm starting to put out stuff on our page. We've got a team page. I'm starting to put out stuff on our team page of personal development, of stuff you really want to dig into and listen to. And if I put it up, it's probably I put it up because I've listened to it 20, 30, 40 times. And people are like, oh, I don't like listening to the same thing over and over again. But you turn on the damn TV every day and hear the same stuff. And you've done it for 40 years and you're complaining about an audio that's 1 hour long. I'm like, you have to kind of really look at what you're saying. People's rebuttals to certain things just don't make any sense at all. So it's what you listen to, what you watch, what you read. What are you currently reading? Most people have been reading the newspaper, or they're reading articles, or they're reading Facebook. Nothing really that's helping them succeed. Nothing really that's growing what they're doing. John Maxwell talks about there's 5 things that you kind of need to plug into and do. And then last, it's who you hang out with. So that's kind of the mindset to start with is, well, how are you starting things out to get the rest of this working? And then what do you do? So there's a couple things to being core. Getting people started right, obviously. Obeying the laws of duplication, protecting your team from the outside, and learning the growth cycle. That's kind of the philosophy behind this. Being core is pretty simple. There's 10 things to do. Are you doing all of them? There's 10 things to do. Are you doing all of them? Most people aren't doing all of them. Then second, not only are you doing all of them, are you doing all of them consistently and persistently? And third, are you leading and teaching? Are you leading and teaching this information? 2 is getting people started right. And here's kind of the philosophy behind getting started right. Number 1, can I do what you just did? Can I do what you just did? Number 2, do I have the time to do what you're doing? And number 3, am I okay with doing that? A lot of stuff inside of direct sales and network marketing, period, is weird. It's a weird philosophy. It's a weird, if you're doing things that from the outside aren't happening anywhere else, you're the weird one. And then all of a sudden people are like, this is weird. And as soon as people start that feeling like this is weird, this is not normal, like the way in which you contacted me, the way in which you said what you said, this isn't normal. This isn't how people do business in any other field. If you're that person and that's how you're doing business, that's the reason you're not succeeding. This is an attraction business, right, guys? So if what you're doing is not attractive, you might be able to get people in with whatever crazy ass technique some people use, but you're not able to keep them. Which is evident in some companies that after 25 years, you have the same group of people. That's evidence that it's not really happening. You're not 10 times the size. That's evidence. If there's aren't brand new millionaires in the company, that's evidence that what you're doing, get them in, but isn't growing. Just based on statistics and numbers, and it's not just a membership base that you want, it's the team growth. You need more success stories than the same 15 people. So am I okay doing what I'm doing? Number 3, obey the laws of duplication. It must work instantly. So I was taught that if it doesn't work instantly, if I have to go attend a 2, 3, 4 hour training to understand what's going on, whatever you're teaching me to get started right is not getting started right. If it takes 3 hours to train me, that's not simple, that's not easy, and that's not duplicatable. Not 3, 4 hours. That's a long time, right? It must work 10 levels below me. If it doesn't work 10 levels below me, then obviously it's not duplicating down and away from me. It must work with people you don't know. It must work 1,000 miles away. And it must work when an amateur does it to a professional and vice versa. So that's kind of my rule set. That's kind of my rules when somebody comes to me and has an idea and says, okay, here's what I'm thinking of doing. And I run through this list. Does it work instantly? No, you got to go get trained. No, you got to go to a class. No, you got to go do this. I'm like, then I'm not doing it. Like right there, I can stop. It has to work 10 levels below me. So I'm looking at your process. Does it work 10 levels down? No. Therefore, it's not a good idea. I stop right there. Now, if it makes it through those first two, does it work with people I don't know? No, it's kind of specific to, you have to join a club and you have to join a networking group and they have to know who you are. Well, then right there, I'm not doing it because it doesn't duplicate away from me. 1,000 miles away is obvious, you know, in a different language. Next is protect your team, make it simple and easy. And then you go through this cycle. Learned activity is where it starts. You have to learn what the 10 things are. You don't know what you don't know. So you go through the, you know, I don't know what I don't know, and then all of a sudden you know, and you're like, oh, I didn't even know I know that. Then you start to know, but you're not good at it. So that's where the activity knowledge comes in. You actually have to physically go out and do some of this stuff to understand. And that leads into getting started right, and that's where we're starting, is the 8-step pattern. I was learned there were 8 steps to getting really rolling if you want to go fast. So there's getting a new person started, and getting a new person started is just basically a couple things to get them paid and promoted. That's what your objective is. That's what you're trying to get done. The 8-step pattern is more of a long-term, monthly, what are we doing to stay on track? And the 8 steps are pretty simple. Number 1, you define what you want. You define basically your dream. Like, what am I going after here? What am I trying to accomplish? And that's going to be different for every person. The dream of making it to 6 figures, the dream of making it on stage, that's going to be different for everybody. The second thing is you have to make some commitments. You have to set some goals. The first goal in the company is to get paid and promoted. I don't care if you want $1,000 a month, $1,000 a week, $1,000 a day. The very first thing you have to learn how to do is basically, you know, get started and get paid and promoted. And if you fail to do that, then obviously you can't get to $1,000 a month, you can't get to $1,000 a week, you can't get to $1,000 a day. So the first objective, the first goal is what? Getting paid and promoted and learning how to promote and what that involves. So that's the main thing that I'm going to talk to people about, is this is your first objective. If you started a job, if you started in real estate, if you started in insurance, if you started in financial services, they're not going to say, what is the goal 10 years from now? They're going to say, this is the first objective, just like the military. This is the first thing we're doing. And you can't bypass, there's nothing else to talk about until you accomplish this. Here's the first thing, here's the second thing. Let's get these 2 things done, and then let's have another conversation. 3, you start with a list. Now, what I start people with is a short list of 10. My objective is to present this to 10 people as fast as possible. Now, in most network marketing companies, it can take more than 10 people, simply because a lot of companies are driven by their opportunity, not driven by the product. Although most companies are like, we're product driven, really? But if the same product is for sale at the gas station, if the same product is for sale at Sam's Club, Costco, Target, Walmart, if the same thing is for sale at every drugstore, if the same thing is for sale and has now its own stores that's competing against you, yes, it's going to be a $32 billion industry, but it's not going to come out of your company. You're going to be this piece of something that fills up, you know, from here to the state border. Little piece of that. Bunch of companies out there in certain industries. But if you look at what, you know, if you're involved in Legal Shield and you look at the Legal Shield basically against what else is out there, you have 2 choices. You can hire a normal attorney, or you have our service. What else is your alternative? There isn't one. There isn't one. You can't buy it at Amazon. You can't get it at Walmart. You can't go to Target. You can't order it online. You have 2 choices. You can sign up, or you can just pay the normal hourly rate of whoever you're talking to and get whoever you get. So it is, you know, that's why I'm able to show it to 10 people and get engagement. Also, price point. The average price point in the industry right now is about $350. Just on average, I've looked at a bunch of companies. The average startup fee is about $350 in most companies. Startup fee, and your average product, monthly shipment, whatever, is around $100 to $150. It ranges right in there, $100 and $150. I've seen them as high as $500-$600 lately. There are companies that's their auto ship, or like they want you to, you know, $500-$600. There's a company that's actually coming back out. And I say coming back out because years ago this was a dominant company in the industry. The guys who were running it were basically, they were loaned money, and the loans kind of ran out. They didn't pay off the debt necessarily. They just used it to expand all over the world, and it created a bunch of millionaires. It was a great business model at the time, and then everybody else came out with it, and it vanished. Another company bought the rights to the business, and now they're talking about coming back out with it. It's crazy. I just recently learned that. They're coming back out with a company after years, but there's 100 competitors in the market. But there's things like that that are competition in the industry, where the one thing I like about what we do is for $35 for an individual or $50 for a family, and there is no discount. I pay the same thing as my customer does involved. So it's basically the most, undervalued thing. I've never seen anything sold for less that could be sold for more, if that makes sense. Like, they should be charging $100 to $200 a month for this, honestly. And they should quadruple the commissions, and everybody would be really happy, and it would still work. But they kept it at $25 for the legal plan. They kept it at $10 for the individual, for the identity theft, and $25 for the family. So under $35 for an individual, under $50 for a family, and then pays out all this money. We've captured, there's 1.7 million people involved between the U.S. and Canada. So a very small portion still after 37 years. So it's kind of like we're still at the level of we haven't talked to enough people for it really to go anywhere. If it just gets to 3 million, great. Could it get to 10 million? Yeah. That means there's, the success they've created so far could be 10 times that size. Just getting to 10 million people. And 10 million people is not a big base. Gosh, can you imagine how many people order from Amazon right now? I don't know what the base is, but I'm sure it's bigger than that. So that's kind of writing your list out. I just get 10 people. Simple, easy. I can run through 10 people and find this and getting people started. Contacting and inviting, we're going to talk about it tomorrow. We're going to talk about presenting what you are presenting to people. We're going to talk about the follow-up process. We're going to talk about checking your progress, finding out where you're at in the system, and then we're going to teach you how to repeat and teach these 10 things in the 8-step pattern to people, so that way you can build long-term. And it's just kind of a cycle of building over and over again. Just like in real estate, you go find a client, you find out what they want, you sell them a house, you close the deal, and then you start over again. People are like, oh my gosh, it's so boring, it's the same thing. Well, yeah. In the car business, is it different? No, it's just every year they come out with something a little bit different. It's really the same car. It's the same manufacturer. It just has new bells and whistles. Do you have to learn a whole new system? Not really. It's the same thing. And it's been like that for years. So with that, that's kind of the start to the 10 core. Brandy, anything else?
Be sure to like in the comments and let us know where you guys are plugging in from. Let us know what you liked about this show today. We like to hear your comments and what we're doing good, what you would like to see us improve on. And with that, we will continue this tomorrow.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.